today's lesson is going to be on two-dimensional representations. So that means we're going to be extending and applying understanding of 3D objects to include a top, bottom, and side view, as well as component part diagrams. So by the end of this, you should be able to draw to scale a component part of a 3D object and draw top, front, and side views of given actual 3D objects. So when we come to component part drawings, they're a two-dimensional scale representation that shows each part of an object separately. So you have to know the scale of your drawing, you have to know all the dimensions of the object. You're going to have to calculate the scale size of each dimension. You're going to draw all the sides of the object to represent all of the dimensions of the object using a scale size you found. So that means you're going to draw them using scale factor. You're going to label the views of the object with what side it is, and then you're going to label the original dimensions on the correct side length. So when we're drawing them, we're using the scale size on our ruler. When we are labeling them, we're labeling them with the original we were given. So label what the scale is at the bottom of your drawing as well. So let's get into this. Example number 1 states that the following image for the following image, draw all the component parts of the object at a scale of 1 to 10. Label the components with their measurements. So the first thing we know we need to do is identify our scale, which we have. So my scale is equal to 1/10, because that's what we have been told. So we have a scale of 1/10. So now what we can do is we can take and we can convert all of our original measurements, which are the ones on the drawing, to a scale measurement. So when we're doing this, we're going to take each one. So I have 45, so we're going to set it up as a proportion. So 1/10 is equal to x over 45. And remember, we're going to cross multiply. So we're going to take the two things that are across from each other, multiply those two things, divide by what's left out. Okay, so cross multiply, divide. If we do that, I get 45 times 1 divided by 10, which means that x is equal to 4.5 centimeters in this case. So we can also just make a quick note over here that this one's now 4.5, just so that we know which one belongs where. I also have a 1/10 scale factor for x over 40. If I cross multiply, divide, I get x equals 4.0. So I can come over here, 4.0 centimeters. Don't forget your units. And last one is 1/10 is equal to x over 30. Cross multiply, divide, you should get 3.0 equals x. So I can come up here, 3.0 centimeters. Now what we can do is, since we know all of our scales, we can go through and we can draw each of the component parts. So in this case, we have a cube, which means my front and back, my left and right, and my top and bottom are going to be the same image. So what you need to do is you need to grab a ruler. I don't have one on the computer, so I'm not going to be able to draw them to scale like you would. And what we're going to do is we're going to say this is our top / bottom view. Now we're going to look at the top, which is this one right here. And we're going to see what dimensions is it. So it's going 30 by 40. So we're going to draw it as a 4 centimeters by 3 centimeter square. You will be using a ruler, so this should be measured as 4. This will be measured as 3. We're going to put times 2 because there definitely are 2 of them. And then we're going to label them with the original measurements. So this will be labeled as 40 centimeters. This will be labeled as 30 centimeters. You don't have to put the times 2 in. I just like to do it just as an extra reminder that there is 2 of them. Now we're going to do our side view. And when we're dealing with our side view, that's this one right here. So it's 30 by 45. So when we do this, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to label this as side view. And we're going to go 30. So 3 centimeters by 4.5 centimeters. this is times 2. So this is our sides. There are 2 of them. So this was 45 centimeters, and this was 30 centimeters. Now we have one more left, and that's the front and back. So these ones right here. And our front and back are 40 by 45. So we're going to go 4.5 centimeters by 4 centimeters, back up. So this one here should be labeled as 45. This one as 40, but they are actually 4 by 4.5. There are 2 of these ones. Now the last thing we also need to do is we need to write at the bottom what our scale is of 1 to 10. If you wrote it up at the top, I would accept it as well, but you don't always have to write it at the top if it's given to you in the question. So make sure to write it beside all your drawings so everybody knows. Next example is of a 3D object, and it wants the front and side views. We're also going to throw in a top view just for practice. So I also want a top view. I just didn't type it in there. So when we're looking at this here, if I want a side view, I'm going to be looking at this side here. This is my front, and then the top is looking straight down. We're going to have to make some estimates as to our top view because we can't see everything. So we're just going to pretend that there's nothing there in this case. Normally, I would only ask you for a top view if you can see everything. Otherwise, it's probably not going to be correct. So let's take a look at the front view first. So if I wanted the front view, this one would be part of my front. I could see this one. I would see this one. I would not see this one because it's going to be blocked by this first one. So we're only coloring in ones that we would see. And then what we're going to do is these don't have to be drawn to scale because we don't actually have a scale or any measurements to go off of. So you're still going to use a ruler, still going to make it look nice and straight. But we're going to have 4 blocks, 1, 2, 3, and 4 across the bottom. Yours should be straight, so it will look much nicer than mine, hopefully. Let me try this again. There we go. So 4 blocks on the bottom. Now we're going to move up to the second level, and there are 3 of them on this side here. So make sure you're lining the sides up properly, and then an extra guy in the middle for the 3rd row. Now my side view is going to look where these ones in red are, so I can see all of these guys. So when I'm drawing my side view, I'm once again going to have 4 across the bottom. And then I'm going to have 2 in my second row off to the right side, and then 1 kind of in the middle. Now for my top view, we're going to take a look at all the ones if we were to look directly down on it. So all the ones in blue are ones that we would see if this was a top view. So I'm going to start by the bottom here where I'm going to have 2 blocks off to the right hand side. I'm going to have 2 blocks again and 1 kind of off to the side here where there's a gap. Then I'm going to have 3 blocks starting on the left side. So they're going to connect like this. And then I'm going to have 1 right here. So that's what the top view of this object would look like. We don't have to label a scale because we don't have a scale for this one. Next example says, draw a component parts diagram of a rectangular prism that has a width of 8, a depth of 4, and a height of 6 using a scale of 1 to 2. So if I'm using a 1 to 2 scale, I'm going to convert all of my measurements by a half. First things first though, I always like to draw a version of the diagram to make it easier to see what we're dealing with. So I'm going to draw my rectangular prism. It doesn't have to be perfect. I'm just drawing it because it's easy. So this is going to be 8 centimeters. We are going to be 6 centimeters high, 4 centimeters deep. So deep is always like front to back if it makes it easier for you. Now what we're going to do is we're going to convert all of these. So I have 1/2 equal to x over 6. cross multiply, divide, I get 3 centimeters. 1/2 is equal to x over 4. If I cross multiply, divide, I get 2 centimeters. And 1/2 is equal to x over 8. Cross multiply, divide, I get 4 centimeters. So when I'm drawing my component parts, I'm going to go my front and back. And I'm going to take my ruler, and it's going to be 4 centimeters by 3 centimeters. So this is 6 centimeters, 8 centimeters times 2. My sides, or left and right, are going to be 2 centimeters, or 3, I guess, along the side by 2. So this is 6 centimeters. This is 4 centimeters. There are 2 of those. And my top and bottom is what we have left. And that one is going to be 4 centimeters by 2 centimeters. So this is 4 centimeters. This is 8 centimeters. There are 2 of them. And then we also have to write our scale of 1 to 2. And last example here. We're going to go through and we're going to figure out what these parts are. I didn't write on here, but I want this to be at a scale of 1 to 25. So let's go through and figure out what all our parts are. So I'm going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 shelves. And they're going to be at, so I'm going to have 6 shelves. And the measurements of the shelves are 150 centimeters by 30 centimeters. Now I'm going to have a side here and a side over here that are going to be, so there's 2 of them, and they are our sides, and they are going to be 30 centimeters by 200 centimeters. And last but not least, I'm going to have a very back side. We don't really see it right here because there is no front side, so there'll be one of them that is going to be the back side, and it's going to be 154 centimeters by 200. So I want you to pause the video and I want you to find all the scale measurements of those things. Now that you have all of your measurements, the shelves should be 6 by 1.2 centimeters. Your sides should be 8 centimeters by 1.2 centimeters, and the back panel should be 6.2 centimeters by 8 centimeters. What I want you to do is I want you to draw the component part diagrams. So pause the video, draw and label them, then come back and make sure they match what I have. So once they are drawn, they should look similar to mine, where you have your back side that's 200 by 154, your side views that are 200 by 30, there are 2 of them, your shelves, there are 6, so we're right times 6, and they're 30 by 150, and always remember to write scale of 1 to 25. You can now go complete the assignment or worksheet that goes with the lesson.